All right, we are officially into week 1. Had a profitable week 0. Obviously, options were limited, but I placed 4 bets. I won 3 of them. I don't have it in front of me. I think I picked up 1.7 units or something, 1.6, something like that. So a nice little week 0. Hopefully, we followed up with a winning week 1. Obviously, a lot more action on the board here. So in this video, I'm going to go through Thursday games. Remember, we're going through the games throughout the week on the midnight show, the live streams. So be sure to check those. And if you want the text message alerts every single time I place a bet, just go to KyleKirms.com. Let's get into it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points?
I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they have the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. First up is Boise State, South Florida. Earlier in the summer, you can get 8.5 nines in this one. Obviously, those are long gone. This has been hovering at 6, 6.5 for a while. Earlier this morning, they bumped the limits up to 20K at Circa, and looks like we got hit with some South Florida money. So we are now down to 5.5 pretty much across the board here. So they up the limits. Some South Florida money comes in. All right, obviously the lead story, at least on the South Florida side, is the return of Byron Brown at quarterback. Missed most of last season, injured, and when he did play, wasn't 100%. People forget how good this kid was back in 2023. I mean, over almost 3,300 passing yards, over 800 rushing yards, QB rating over 144. Played great in 2023, and there were some high hopes there going into 2024. Obviously, he couldn't stay healthy. He's back, looks great, fully healthy, participating in camp without limitations, and he should have a very strong offensive line in front of them. They bring back 4 starters from last year. They also brought in a couple of nice transfers, a starter from App State. So the offensive line should also take a dramatic step forward in front of them. Looking pretty good here for the South Florida offense. Now, the Boise defense should be pretty good. They should be the strongest defense in the Mountain West, or one of. They're probably the strongest defense in the Mountain West. They do take some hits in the front 7, though. A couple linebackers gone. Andrew Simpson transfers to North Carolina. They lose a couple defensive tackles, but they bring back their best one, probably. So, I mean, they took some hits to the defensive front, but by no means is this Boise State defense looking bad. What I wanted to point out, though, is if you look at this matchup, South Florida's offense against Boise State's defense, and you use last year's numbers, it looks like this dramatic mismatch, and that's just not the case. You got to keep in mind, when you're looking at South Florida's offensive numbers from last year, Byron Brown didn't play for pretty much the entire season. So I think South Florida's offense, with Byron Brown healthy and a better offensive line, is going to be much better than these numbers show. And I think Boise State's defense might take a small step backwards. So this matchup is closer than you think. I mean, in the opener, in the Tampa heat, it's going to touch above 90 degrees. It might rain a little bit, I'm reading, but it always might rain in Florida. That's nothing unique. I think South Florida is going to move the ball. I think they're going to make some plays. I think they're going to score some points in this game on Boise State's defense. Now, when we flip it around to the other side, obviously the Boise State offense, I mean, obviously it's pretty loaded here. This was one of the most dynamic rushing attacks in the country last year. They were 6th in the country in yards per play, 3rd in yards per carry. They were rated 12th in OFEI. Like I said, this was one of the best rushing attacks in the country, not just in the Mountain West, not just at a group of 5 programs, in the entire country. Now, obviously, Ashton Jeanty is gone. He's on the Raiders now. But outside of him, pretty much the rest of the offense is back. They've got running backs, too. Malik Sherrod from Fresno. He missed most of last year injured, but he was the starter at Fresno in 2023. Sire Gaines is dealing with an injury, but he's there as well. And dealing with an injury is kind of the theme here when we're talking about Boise's offense. Now, I'm reading that they might be ready to go for the opener. The 2 pieces I'm referring to are Tyler Keeneth, and I apologize if I'm saying that name incorrectly. He's supposed to be the starter at left guard. He's been limited in camp. It's unclear if he's going to be ready to go in this opener. Same goes for the right tackle, Hall Schmidt, who's a returning starter from last year. He started 12 games. He's been limited all camp. It's uncertain if he's going to be ready to go for the opener either. I will say they're pretty deep. They've got like 7 or 8 offensive linemen that have starting experience. So maybe this is a non-issue, but seems like it's important enough to point out that they are dealing with injuries on the offensive line. And also their right guard, Carrion, he missed 8 games last year. He's coming off a serious injury. I think a back injury. I don't want to misspeak, but he's coming off a serious injury. He's cleared to play. He's going to play in this game, but he hasn't played in a long time. So Boise State offensive line, it's going to be very strong this year. Might not get the best production in the opener dealing with all the injuries. So there's something I like for South Florida. Now, I know on paper people perceive the South Florida defense to be bad, and they're thinking, Boise State's just going to roll this South Florida defense. And look, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that South Florida has a good defense. What I will tell you is this defense does seem to be trending in the right direction since hiring Todd Orlando to be the defensive coordinator. The 3 years before he got there, I mean, this is bottom 25 defense, 119th, 128th, 106th. Since hiring Todd Orlando to coach the defense, they've been in the top 100 back-to-back years. They bring back a solid amount of production on the defensive side of the ball, including their 3 leading tacklers, Harris, Schuler, Tavin Ward, number 1, 2, and 3 on the team in tackles. They're all back. So I think this South Florida defense is going to be okay. I'm not going to say South Florida's defense is going to be good, but I think they take a step forward this year. And considering the Boise State offensive line a little banged up, I don't think South Florida's defense is just going to get rolled. They're not going to shut Boise State down, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some good defensive sets here from South Florida. Another thing I like about the defense, I should have mentioned this before, I really like how they were playing their best football of the year down the stretch. In the last 7 games of the year, South Florida's defense was holding opponents to a success rate below 37%. That's very good. So South Florida, Todd Orlando has the defense trending in the right direction. They were playing their best football of the year the second half of the season. You like to see that. I truly believe that South Florida is coming into this game with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They believe their name should be being mentioned amongst Tulane and even Navy at the top of the conference, kind of being slept on a little bit. This is going to be one of the best teams in the AAC this year, or they should be. Hopefully they could stay healthy. Memphis is obviously another name you have to throw up there as well. But this is a very strong AAC team, and catching a big number at home, not nearly as big as the number was earlier in the summer. People hammered South Florida plus 8.5, plus 9 early in the summer. Unfortunately, those are gone. But Boise State, with the early injuries to the offensive line, adjusting to a life post-Ashton Genty, it'd be South Florida for me. I couldn't get there. I'm seeing 5.5s now. So it would be South Florida plus 6 or plus 6.5 if I could get it. I would also slightly lean under, but this is not a game I bet. Give me South Florida plus 6 for the video, but no bet for me. Next up, Ohio Bobcats on the road against Rutgers. They upped the limits to 5K. This one was at 14. They took some Rutgers money in. We're up to 15.5 right now. They upped the limits to 10K, but doesn't seem to be any movement off that. I'm seeing pretty much 15.5s across the board in this one. So obviously the Ohio Bobcats lose Tim Albin, which is huge. He's a great head coach. Something I will say, though, they might not feel the effects of missing Tim Albin right away because basically the entire rest of the coaching staff is back. The new head coach is Brian Smith. He was the OC last year for Ohio, and the new OC is Fording. He was the quarterback's coach last year. So, yes, there's no Tim Albin, but it's the same offensive coaching staff, and the DC is the same. It's still John Hauser. So, although they lose Tim Albin, and admittedly, that's a huge loss, the rest of the coaching staff is the same. So, not too much of an adjustment here for Ohio post Tim Albin. The offensive line takes some hits. 4 starters gone from last year. Parker Navarro is back, and I think the main story here is trying to figure out what version of Parker Navarro is going to show up, because last year, people forget, everyone remembers what happened at the end of the season. He was electric. He was the best player in the conference down the stretch. Ohio obviously went on to win the MAC championship game. Parker Navarro was making circus plays. It was crazy. He got benched earlier in the season, and then he got his starting job back, and then once he got his starting job back, it was over. Once Parker Navarro got his starting job back, Ohio was averaging 37.8 points per game, 6.68 yards per play, success rate over 50%. So Parker Navarro gets benched, gets his starting job back, and the Ohio offense just goes nuclear after that. But we don't want to forget the first 8 games of the year where Ohio's offense was really struggling. And Parker Navarro, like I said, he got benched. First 8 games of the year, they had a success rate per dropback under 39%. So Ohio's offense was really struggling earlier in the season. Then it looked unstoppable late in the season. So trying to predict what version of Parker Navarro in the Ohio offense is going to show up is tough. They also lose their all-conference running back Anthony Tyus, which certainly doesn't help, along with the offensive line. Look, Parker Navarro made me a believer last year. He can make some circus plays, break tackles in the backfield. So I believe in Parker Navarro. I couldn't believe some of the plays he was making down the stretch. But as a whole, I think everyone would agree that Ohio's offense takes a step back here. They're matched up against a Rutgers defense that I really don't know what to think. I mean, Rutgers fans are pretty big on the team this year, but I think it's mostly on the other side of the field. Rutgers defense loses a ton of production here. They bring back the leading tackler there in the middle, the linebacker. He was Big Ten honorable mention. Other than that, there's not a ton of production back. They do bring in some transfers they're excited about. This is probably going to be a weak defense this year, but despite losing all the production, I wouldn't be surprised if Rutgers defense takes a small step forward. You got to remember, last year, Torrey was supposed to be the leader of the defense, and he was out for the season before the year even started. So Rutgers defense kind of received a gut punch right before the season started last year. That was the inside linebacker, Torrey. He was the inside linebacker, leading tackler, captain of the defense. And then right before the season started, he was out for the year in 2024. So that'll just take the wind out of your sails as a defense if the guy that was supposed to be your leader gets ruled out for the season right before the season started. He is now in Miami, by the way. He transferred out. I think the Rutgers defense will be slightly better than this, but still, this is not a great Big Ten defense. And Parker Navarro, I wouldn't be surprised if they score some points on the Scarlet Knights defense in this one. And if you're thinking, oh, Kyle, there's no way Ohio goes on the road and runs the ball on a Power 4 defense, well, keep in mind, that's exactly what they did to start last season. In last year's opener, they went on the road to Syracuse, 255 yards rushing in the game, over 6.5 yards per carry, over 48% success rate per rush. Now, granted, they had Anthony Tyus. The offensive line was a little better, but we saw this Ohio offense do exactly that. They had a great offensive game on the road in Syracuse to open up last season. So kind of a similar situation on the road against a Power 4 team that might not have the strongest defense. But on the other side of the field, this is where Rutgers should not have any problem whatsoever. And if Rutgers has problems moving the football in this game, it's going to be a very long season for Rutgers because they are loaded on this side of the ball in terms of returning production. Basically 4.5, 5 starters back on the offensive line. They bring the quarterback back in Callie McManus, a quarterback who early in the year was really struggling, but second half of the year, he started to get comfortable. I'm not going to say Callie McManus looked excellent. I'm just saying he started to look comfortable in the second half of the year. And with the receivers back, with the exception of Miller, he's gone. But they bring in DT Sheffield from North Texas, who they like a lot. He's got receiving targets. He's got the offensive line. I know they lose Monangai, who's on the Bears now, but they bring in CJ Campbell to run the ball from FAU. He had 840 yards last year. So Rutgers' offense is in great shape, and Ohio lost basically their entire front seven. Rutgers should be able to hand the ball off and average 6 or 7 yards per carry in this game. Callie McManus should have all day to throw. Rutgers' offense should do whatever they want in this one, which is why my pick for this game would be the over, but it's long gone. It's up at 51.5 now. When I wrote this article, it was at 46. So you can't bet it anymore. It's all the way up at 51.5, but I like the over, just the numbers long gone. Rutgers is still laying 15.5. Anything under 17, I'd consider a Rutgers bet. So Rutgers and over for me. Next game on the board is Wyoming Akron, and it looks like we're taking some Zips money in this one. This was at 7.5. It dropped down to 7. They upped the limits to 10K, and they got hit with some Akron money. We're down to 5. I'm looking right now. I'm seeing 5 or 5.5. So looks to be some Akron money coming in on this one. All right, so this one's kind of looking like my worst bet of the week. I did bet this game. I took the over, but the market hates it. We'll talk about it in a second. So we'll start with the Wyoming offense against the Akron defense, and look at this matchup here. Obviously, this is the weakness of these two teams. The Wyoming offense was terrible And same goes for the Akron defense. The bad news is I don't think the Akron defense is even better this year. I actually think it could be worse than this. I know worse than 114th in DFEI. Yeah, I think this is one of the worst defenses in the country this year, certainly up front. I mean, their front seven, almost nobody's back. They lose almost everybody. The defensive line, there's not a lot of experience at all there for Akron. So, I mean, I don't even know who the replacements are for a lot of the holes they need to fill here. So that's the bad news. Akron's defense was pretty bad last year, and it might even be worse this season. Now, on the Wyoming side, I think you have reason to be optimistic if you're a Wyoming fan. Offensively, I think you're in pretty good shape. Now, looking at the Wyoming offensive numbers from last year, how could you say they're in good shape? They were terrible. Well, you got to keep in mind it was Sawvell's first year with the program, and it was so bad in the first half of the season that we kind of didn't notice that it was starting to work a little bit later in the year. Remember, Sawvell wants to run the football, and Wyoming was kind of running the football there down the stretch. Again, nobody was watching the games at that point because Wyoming was so pathetic to start the season that we all just kind of wrote Wyoming off. In the last 5 games, over 181 rushing yards per game, success rate per rush up close to 46%, just under 4.6 yards per carry. It happened under our noses. We weren't really paying attention, but Wyoming started to run the football down the stretch there last year. And we're talking about a Wyoming offense. Remember, now Sawvell's in year 2. He's been with the program for a year. And we're talking about a Wyoming offense that brings back a lot of production. 6 of their top 7 offensive linemen are back. They bring back both quarterbacks, although Swoboda is transferring to tight end this year. Caden Anderson is going to start at quarterback. And if you're a Wyoming fan, you're excited about that because the Wyoming offense looked much better when he was under center. So you got the quarterback back. You got the offensive line back, pretty much the whole thing. You've got the top 2 wide receivers back. You've got talent at running back. Now, there are some injury concerns at running back for Wyoming. Sam Scott he missed all of spring. He was also banged up in fall camp. I don't know if it's certain that he's definitely going to play. He's probably going to be RB1 if he does play. I'm not sure if Sam Scott's definitely going to play in this game. And also Demaja Harris, he missed spring as well, although I think he's going to be ready for the opener. They also had a couple other running backs get hurt. So they are dealing with some injury issues at the running back position. But with the rest of the offense, regardless of which back is active for this game and who's getting the carries, I think Wyoming is going to be able to run the ball just fine here against this Akron defensive line that's going to be really inexperienced. I think Wyoming's going to move the ball. Now, on the other side, I think Akron's going to move the ball right back. Somehow, this was the strength of the team, the Wyoming defense. They were 123rd in yards per play, 131st in yards per carry allowed. This was not a good defense last year, and they bring back a couple starters on the defensive line. Other than that, everyone's gone. All the linebackers are gone. The secondary's gone. I mean, this is the Wyoming defense is in pretty bad shape here. And you might be thinking, Kyle, who cares? It's Akron. They can make stops against Akron. Well, the Akron offense actually had a little bit of a passing attack brewing in the second half of the year. I know you look at Ben Finley's numbers on the year, and these stats don't blow you away. But second half of the season, Akron was slinging the ball a little bit. Now, I'm talking about Akron standards here. Obviously, they weren't setting the scoreboard on fire, but last 6 games of the year, Joe Moorhead and Ben Finley seemed to finally get things rolling. Over 270 passing yards per game, 7.9 yards per attempt. Success rate per dropback is still down close to 38%, which isn't good. But in comparison to the first 6 games, I mean, they did have some tough non-con games, but Akron's passing attack seemed to be getting it going there down the stretch, and Joe Moorhead's bringing his quarterback back, which is not always something you can say in a conference like the MAC. So with the quarterback back, I think Akron's gonna have a passing attack this year. Now they do have some holes to fill on the offense. Offensive line brings back 2 starters. They're bringing some transfers. Offensive line's probably about the same. 3 of their top 4 receivers are gone. They bring back the tight ends. They do have some holes to fill. I'm not saying Akron's offense looks great, but I'm saying the Wyoming defense looks concerning with all the production they lost. So I think Akron's going to score points right back. And in the fact that Akron is academically ineligible for postseason play this year, I think they're going to play loose. I think we're going to see some maybe more aggressive play calling here. I like the over. I bet the over at 49.5. Bad news is it's currently sitting at 47.5. So it's looking like a terrible bet. So yeah, I'm on the over. I bet this. I would still bet it at 47.5, but obviously people that are smarter than me disagree. So market likes the under. Sharp action seems to be coming in on the under. I am on the over. Hopefully we see some late steam and this closes at like 50.5. I'll be psyched. As of right now, it's looking like I placed a bad wager, but I'll be on the over in this one. I already bet it. Next up, we got ECU NC State. And if you rewind a few days ago, there were 11.5 12s. But for the last 2 or 3 days, it's pretty much been 13.5, 14, bouncing back and forth here. As I'm recording this right now, where is ECU? Where the hell is it? Oh, there it is. It's pretty much 14. Yeah, it's pretty much 14 across the board as I'm recording this right now. All right, we got a rivalry game here. ECU's kind of been a thorn in North Carolina State's side. So first of all, they just played like 4 months ago or whatever. It was in the bowl game. ECU just beat NC State just a few months ago. And they also played in the opener back in, I want to say 2022 or 2023. I'll put it up on the screen. ECU almost beat them. I think the final score was 21-20 or 2019. ECU almost beat NC State. I believe that was the Devin Leary team. So although NC State's an ACC program, they're laying 2 touchdowns. They're perceived to be significantly better than ECU, and they are significantly better than ECU. This is not a game they could sleepwalk through. This is a rivalry, and ECU has given them problems. Now, as far as the matchup this year, the lead story with ECU is how seriously do we take the transformation midseason? If you don't know what I'm talking about, so ECU fired the head coach and made a quarterback change midseason last year. Mike Houston gets fired. Blake Harrell takes over as the head coach, and he's the head coach heading into this year. Last year was the interim coach. They make the quarterback change to Katin Hauser. And what we saw with that new combination of Blake Harrell head coach, Katin Hauser quarterback, was crazy. It was, I don't want to say like, oh, it was so much better. It was just a lot different. Very aggressive. You could see here on the screen, in the 5 games where we had Harrell at head coach, Hauser at quarterback, ECU averaged 40.6 points per game, success rate up close to 48%, over 7.1 yards per play. Out of nowhere, ECU was taking shots down the field. They were spreading the ball out. They were throwing the ball over the field. It looked like a completely different team, honestly. Now, here's where it gets a little fuzzy, because you might be saying, and what I was thinking last year heading into that Navy game was, oh man, this ECU offense is explosive with Hauser at quarterback and Harrell at coach. What I probably should have taken into consideration more was who they played, because we're looking at these crazy offensive numbers from ECU there in that 5-game stretch. And then you look at the first 4 games of those: Temple, FAU, Tulsa, North Texas. Those are probably 4 bottom 15 defenses in the country. So maybe some of the explosive passing numbers are a result of they played some really bad defenses, and then they saw Navy the last game of the year, a better defense, and it didn't look all that great. And I should know, I had ECU -2 or -1. I had ECU money line or something as one of my top bets that week. It didn't look that great at all. So I don't know how seriously we take these offensive explosion numbers, considering they played such bad defenses. But no question, whether you're buying it or whether you're not buying it, one thing we can all agree on is they were more aggressive down the stretch after the head coaching change and the quarterback change. Look at Katin Hauser's numbers. The dude started 6 games. He played in 7 or 8, but he started 6 games. 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions with 6 starts. Not all the numbers are good, but that's a lot of numbers. 9 interceptions is certainly terrible, but they were aggressive with Hauser at quarterback. The second half of the year, ECU was an aggressive team, and I don't know if that changed. I mean, they bring back the quarterback. Hauser's back. 3 of their top 4 receivers are back. They did lose Sowell, who's huge. I mean, it's probably their most talented receiver from last year. We just watched him in Ireland with Iowa State. He actually had a big drop on 3rd down. But they bring in Petaway from Oklahoma, who should replace him. So quarterback, wide receiver, they're fine. Offensive line, probably about the same as last year. They bring back 2.5 starters. They bring back someone who started 5 games. So offensive line, probably about the same as last year. I guess we should expect ECU to be aggressive offensively again. And they're matched up against an NC State defense that, look, NC State in years past kind of had the identity of this really tough front seven and this really, really tough ACC defense. I'm not sure if I still feel the same way about NC State anymore. Not only was last year a down year defensively, I mean, they were 76th in yards per play, 61st in DFEI. That is not up to NC State standards on the defensive side of the field. So not only it was last year a down year for NC State's defense, but Tony Gibson's gone, their defensive coordinator, and that's kind of been the identity for NC State, is that tough defense. He took the head coaching job over at Marshall. So I'm not sure how I feel about this NC State defense. The secondary is certainly gutted. They bring back one starter, Marshall at corner. Obviously, they're still talented. It's NC State against ECU. They still have the talent edge, but I think there's opportunities for Hauser to make some plays downfield against a new secondary here for NC State. Now, there's probably also opportunities for him to throw picks because that's what we saw a lot of last year. But I think there's opportunities for Hauser to make some big plays here against this NC State defense. Now, on the other side of the ball, this is where, if you're an NC State fan, this is kind of, I don't want to say the perfect opener because it's a rivalry and this game seems to always be interesting, but ECU's defense is gut. They're all gone. Everyone's gone on the ECU defense. So this should be a really nice opener for CJ Bailey, who, by the way, I'm a big fan of. This guy, if you haven't watched CJ Bailey play, that's the quarterback for NC State, superstar. I mean, this dude was making crazy plays last year as a true freshman. He's one of the most talented freshman quarterbacks I've seen in recent years. Really excited for his future. Not as excited as the surrounding talent around him there at NC State. I'm not necessarily big on the offense. I just think CJ Bailey is a superstar at quarterback. And against this ECU defense that lost anybody, it should be the perfect opportunity for him to rack up a really nice highlight reel. So NC State should be able to move the ball up and down the field pretty effortlessly here against ECU. Which is why when it comes to betting the game, I wrote in the article, NC State minus 11.5 and over 59.5. Those numbers are gone. I wouldn't bet NC State at 14. We're getting close to the fair now. I probably would have the fair price at 14.5, 15, maybe 15.5 for NC State. So I wouldn't bet it at the 14. You can still get, where is it at? I was just looking at it. I just had it on the screen. I'm sorry. What did I minimize it? Oh, here it is. You can still get a 60.5 on FanDuel at the time of recording. So I don't hate that over 60.5. It's minus 114. You pay a little juice for it. So yeah, I don't hate the over 60.5. That'd be my favorite pick as of right now at current. I wouldn't bet NC State at 14. We're getting a little high now. So over 60.5 at current. Next up is Jacksonville State UCF. And it looks like they got hit pretty good with some UCF money when they bumped the limits up to 10K. It was at 17.5, then the 18.5, then they up the limits to 10K, jumped all the way up to 21. And I'm looking right now, I'm seeing that's mostly at 20.5 right now. But it looks like they did get hit with some UCF money when they upped the limits to 10K in this one. All right, so what do I say about this game? I mean, both of these rosters are completely new. Both of these coaching staffs are completely new. I mean, Scott Frost is taking over a brand new UCF team that's mostly built through the portal, and same goes for Charles Kelly. These are just two brand new teams, two brand new coaches. I kind of skipped this one, if we're being honest, but honestly, Scoop has a bet, and he really likes it. He said in the Discord, I really like this one. I don't know how he could really like it. So I'll play the clip of him talking about this game. Yeah, Scoop, what the hell are you picking this game for? Go ahead, man. I don't know what to say about this. It's two brand new rosters. What is this UCF team?
I don't care what team Jacksonville State looks like this year. There's no way I'm giving 19.5 points with UCF. I thought they would roll out Taven Jackson for sure. I thought he would be the week one starter, but Cam Fancher's in that starting role. I am not a Cam Fancher fan. I've seen what he did at FAU. UCF was primarily a running team through the years, but that was with RJ Harvey and before that Bowser. I know their running backs aren't terrible now. Mixon was good in the MAC, but it's a step down regardless, and it's a step down because who's blocking for him? Their whole line is gone except their left tackle. No one on this UCF team has an FBS catch as far as your receivers, and that's just the offense who I'm really just unsure of that whole lineup. I don't like their quarterback. I don't know about their receivers. Their running backs are a step down, and their line's completely destroyed. So the defense isn't much better. Their secondary is a bunch of unknowns. They mostly have FCS talent in. I do like their edges with Lawrence and Kelly. I'm not saying Jacksonville State is in good shape at all. Like Kyle just said, I mean, they're not. They're a shit team. I mean,
they're
they should
awful.
be anyway.
They might be one of the worst teams in the country.
They have an inexperienced quarterback. They have an unknown line, an unknown defense. But I think Cam Cook's a solid running back, going to be a solid running back for them. And their head coach is Charles Kelly. I mean, he's a defensive coach. He was a DC of Florida State, Alabama, Colorado. He knows defenses, so I'm not sure about the overall makeup of this defense, but I know he can coach, and I know he can coach against a UCF team who's going to be awful offensively. So, yeah, this is going to be an ugly game. I think this goes under. I think 52.5 is just ridiculous. I think it's just hard to see how the ball moves on either side of the ball. But there's absolutely no way I'm leaving 19.5 points with Cam Fancher in the bounce house. I don't care if it's a bounce house. You have Cam Fancher with an offense that looks awful. So, listen, I know like Kyle just said, Jacksonville State is going to be brutal. I mean, they lost their whole team when Rich Rod left to West Virginia. But yeah, I just can't see leaving that many points off in the first game. So I'm gonna trust in Charles Kelly to have a defensive effort here. I don't know if their offense is going to do much, but yeah, UCF on both sides of the ball don't look great. So I'm not leaving 19.5 points.
I will say, in defense of Cam Fancher, didn't have a ton of surrounding talent on the offense last year at FAU. He didn't really look good in Marshall the years before that, too. Maybe back in like 2022, he was all right. But I don't disagree with a lot of what you said. I just think talent-wise, even though both these teams are new, the talent that Scott Frost has on UCF is just so much better than the Jacksonville State. I don't know what there is to be excited about this year. Everyone's gone. It's a brand new coaching staff, and I guess I lean UCF minus 19.5. I don't even want to talk about this game, to be honest. I didn't really write much about it. I'll say UCF minus 19.5 for Pat, but let's just move on. Yeah, as you heard, I didn't really agree with him. I would say UCF or pass, but I don't care enough about this. I shouldn't say I don't care. I'm not interested enough in this game. I don't feel strongly enough to sit here and talk about it. So UCF minus the big number of pass, but I won't be betting this one. All right, so let's talk Buffalo, Minnesota, and everyone is crazy about the Buffalo Bulls this year. And I'm not just talking about casual college football fans. I'm talking about sharp college football people that I listen to and people whose opinion I trust. They're big on the Buffalo Bulls this year. Everyone's loving the Buffalo Bulls. I want to be clear. I'm not completely disagreeing. I mean, I get the hype. If you haven't followed college football offseason and you haven't taken in any content, and this is your first time kind of getting into college football for the year, a brief summary of why Buffalo is so hyped this year. So last year, Lembo takes over. Pete Lembo, his first year with the team, they were projected to be one of the worst teams in the conference. They went 9-4, 6-2 in conference. They're bringing back most of their team. 3 starters on the offensive line. They're all conference running back. Aljay Henderson is back. And this is a run for his team, too, to sort of bring back an all-conference running back. Huge. They bring back basically their whole defense, like 9 starters. So I completely get the hype. You bring in a new head coach. The team just completely starts winning games, and you bring everyone back. I get the hype. And actually, I'll take it a step further. I'm not even disagreeing with the hype. I do think Buffalo might be the second or third best team in the MAC. I will still take Toledo all day in that conference. But I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo's the second or third strongest team in the MAC. Truly, I get the hype. I am not feeling it in this matchup here on the road against Minnesota. I mean, like I said, Buffalo is a run-first offense. And yes, when you're playing the likes of Akron, when you're playing the likes of Western Michigan, when you're playing the likes of Eastern Michigan, you can hand the ball off, pound it between the tackles, and bully your way down the field. They're on the road in Minneapolis against the Gophers, a Big Ten defense, a Minnesota defense that should be very, very strong against the run. I mean, they bring back pretty much their entire front 7. They lose Lindenberg, who's their main linebacker there, but they bring back the other 3 linebackers. They bring back all of their defensive tackles. This is going to be one of the best run defenses in the country. I'll say, to be safe, I'll say top 15 run defenses. Not to mention, PJ Fleck always has this defense ready to play at home. It is not easy to go into Minneapolis and run the ball between the tackles against the Minnesota defense. Certainly a MAC team. So no, I don't think Buffalo is going to go into Minnesota and bully the Minnesota front seven that I think Ohio State's going to struggle to run the ball in Minnesota this year. I think this is an elite run defense. So no, I don't think Buffalo's going to be able to run the ball on this Minnesota defense. Now, that's not to say the Minnesota defense is perfect. In fact, I think Minnesota could be very vulnerable to the pass this year. What did they lose? They lost one linebacker, but everyone else in the middle is back. They lost their 2-star corners and their 2-star edge rushers to the NFL. 2-star corners, 2-star edge rushers. Minnesota could be vulnerable to the pass this year. And if we were talking about a Big Ten program or a program that could throw the ball with an established quarterback, I'd say, okay, maybe they can complete some passes. Maybe they can make some plays through the air here. But CJ Agbana is gone. And although Buffalo was a run-first program last year, CJ Agbana did two very important things for Buffalo last year. He protected the football, and he connected on big plays. They didn't throw the ball much, but when they did, he didn't put the ball in harm's way. Just a 1.4% turnover-worthy play rate and a 6.8 big-time throw rate. So he made some big throws down the field. That is not what Taquan Roberson has shown us he can do. He was a starter at UConn in 2023, and his numbers are basically the opposite of that. CJ Agbana's turnover-worthy play rate, 1.4%. Roberson's was 3.1%, so more than double the percentage he puts the ball in harm's way, and big-time throw rate is half. So Roberson has not shown us anything to indicate he can give Buffalo the same production CJ Agbana did at the quarterback position. So Roberson is not the guy to go into Minnesota and exploit maybe a weak Minnesota pass defense. I'm talking about weak for Big Ten standards. I'm not talking about a MAC program with an unproven quarterback can go in and throw the ball on Minnesota. I think Buffalo's really going to struggle to move the football in this game, truly. Now, on the other side of the field, yes, Minnesota does have a redshirt freshman at quarterback, and Buffalo's defense is experienced and coming back. So I get why so many people are jumping on taking the points in this one. We're talking about a redshirt freshman quarterback against an experienced defense, but this experienced defense was getting carved up down the stretch last year against some teams not on the level of Minnesota. There was a stretch there of 7 games where they were allowing like 330 passing yards per game to like UConn, Eastern Michigan. Well, Cole Snyder was all right last year. Western Michigan with Hayden Wolf. I mean, they were getting carved up by MAC passing attacks. Now, they were winning those games because the offense was so good. But you mean to tell me Minnesota can't move the ball on Buffalo? They've got one of the best running backs in the country in Darius Taylor. And in my opinion, although they're bringing back a ton of production here on the Buffalo defense, and although Buffalo's defense may take a step forward when it comes to MAC play, there's just nothing to indicate if Minnesota hands the ball off to Darius Taylor that Buffalo's capable of stopping it. So no, I will not be on Buffalo plus 17.5 here. I think Minnesota wins this one comfortably. I'm not trying to lay 17.5 points with a redshirt freshman quarterback. I get it. I'm also not trying to bet against all the sharp college football people because, like I said, Buffalo plus the points is a very popular pick amongst the sharp college football folks. For me, it'll be Minnesota or pass, but I should have grabbed the 16.5 earlier in the week if I wanted it. It's at 17.5 across the board now, so Minnesota or pass, maybe an under, but even that's down to 43.5 now. So just the ship has sailed across the board here for me. So Minnesota or pass. Next game up is Nebraska Cincinnati. This one's been sitting pretty steady at 6.5. It did touch 7 for a second when they upped the limits to 20K, but those got bought up quickly. So I don't think we're going to see a 7 in this one. They flashed a 7 for a second. They got bought up pretty quickly. Limits are now up to 40K on this one, so they seem pretty comfortable at 6.5. As far as betting this game, this is a really tough one for me. I'm going to play some clips of people I had on the show throughout the week. Some people feel more strongly about this game than I do, so I'll play some clips.
On the team last year, so I think Nebraska is actually going to struggle against the run pretty badly here. I know it's not like Cincy has the most explosive offense, but the biggest thing is I really like their defense too. I mean, you got the Godfather, Corleone, who's just a beast at nose tackle. I really love Parker on the line too. They have a solid secondary. I think it's not the easiest game for Raiola to start on the road against what's going to be a good defense. So I think this should be closer to like a 4-point spread possibly. I see a lot of places where Nebraska's going to put up 40. I don't see that at all. I mean,
yeah, I'm on the Bearcats. It is worth noting this game is at Arrowhead. So It's at the Chiefs Stadium, so it will be more of a Nebraska crowd. But I think the love has gone a little bit too far with Nebraska. They seem to be the trendy sleeper pick by everyone because of Matt Rule year 3. The schedule's great. But Cincinnati, one thing I'm actually taking the worst of the two coaches, which I don't usually like doing. But under Satterfield, what they do is they usually lose close games. Statistically, everybody loves them. They usually outgame their opponents. A couple years ago under Satterfield, they outgained like 9 out of their 12 teams, and then they finished with a 4-8 record. Last year, they won a bunch of box scores and then still found themselves on the wrong end of it with a 1-point loss to Pitt, 3-point loss to Texas Tech. I think Sorsby's pretty good. I think Cincinnati's going to be able to move the ball up and down the field on Nebraska. Like I said, I don't know if Cincinnati's going to win the game outright. I could see a 3 or 4 point Nebraska win to Scoop's point. So you're giving me almost 7 points with Cincinnati in a game where I think it's going to be a toss-up field goal game. I'm going to take those points.
Yeah, as you could see, I mean, Scoop and Max seem pretty confident on Cincinnati plus the points. I can't say I completely disagree. This is a big number to lay on the road. And I do think Scott Satterfield is going to have the Cincinnati offense trending in the right direction. They bring back a decent amount of production. Actually, they bring back a lot of production on the defensive side. Not so much on the offense, but Sorsby kind of had a breakout year at quarterback for Cincinnati last year. And you got to remember, when Satterfield took this gig at Cincinnati, he wasn't exactly thrown into the best situation. He took over an AAC roster and was thrown into the Big 12 immediately. Like, he took over the job as they entered the Big 12. Wasn't an easy gig. So this is his 3rd season, and we finally saw sparks of his offense starting to work with Sorsby there. Sorsby had himself a good year, and the quarterback is back. So I also am reading, based on what I'm reading in camp, they lost pretty much all their receivers, but they like the new receivers better. Well, maybe not the best way to phrase that, but I'm reading that the chemistry looks great, and the receiving core, they're really pumped about this year. So I think Cincinnati is going to have a dangerous passing attack. I think Sorsby's going to be tough this year. They lose Kiner, which sucks, the running back, but they bring in Tyree Walker. So I honestly think the Cincinnati offense is going to be good this year. Nebraska's defense is always tough. They take some hits. The secondary should be good, but they got hit with an injury. Bly Hill, corners out for the year, I believe. I really don't know. I'm kind of just like spitballing on this one. I think Dylan Raiola is in a great position on the other side of the field. He's got one of the best offensive lines in the country in front of him. They bring back 3 starters from last year's offensive line. And the 2 remaining spots, so they bring back 3 starters. The 2 remaining spots, one is filled by Pritchett, who's a starter from Alabama last year, and the other one's filled by Rocco Spindler, who was a starter at Notre Dame. So they bring back 3 starters on the offensive line, and the other 2 spots are filled by 2 starters that come from elite, prestigious programs in Alabama and Notre Dame. So Dylan Raiola should be in excellent position here behind one of the strongest offensive lines in the country. Yeah, they lose Dowdle at RB, but Emmett Johnson is back, and honestly, he looked more explosive carrying the ball last year anyway. So I think they're fine at running back. Wide receiver, they're going to have to rely on a couple transfers here, but I think Nebraska's offense is going to be really good. I guess I'll say over at the 51.5. I don't have a bet on this game. I'm rooting for Nebraska. I'm a Matt Rule guy, and it's year 3. This is when Matt Rule year 3. This is when the magic happens. So this total was at 50.5. It got bet up to 53.5. I'm now seeing 51.5. So I guess I'll say over. I don't know if I bet this game. I like Nebraska to win, not necessarily cover. So I'll say over, Nebraska win. Not going to end up betting it. All right, Miami of Ohio on the road in Madison, and I'm going to let Scoop talk about the Wisconsin defense. Scoop's big on this Wisconsin team this year, so I'll let you hear what he had to say.
I'm like way high on Wisconsin. I don't know. I mean, if you're listen to our Discord, it's like the end of the world at Wisconsin. But I mean, I liked Wisconsin. I don't think it's going to happen here against Wisconsin. I mean, start by saying, obviously Miami, Ohio, they lost Gabbert, but they replaced with Finn from. I mean, if you remember him in Toledo, he was ridiculous. But in addition to that, the whole offensive line is new. In addition to their quarterback, so all 3 wideouts are gone. Mosey's gone at running back. You're working in a whole new team here against Wisconsin, who, like I said, I'm big on this year. The reason I don't think people are high on Wisconsin just because the last few years have been just terrible. And I mean, they did draw the hardest schedule in the conference this year, but I think this is the perfect opponent to start the season this year. I know their front seven absolutely destroys Miami, Ohio. So no matter what they lost on their front seven, they replaced them with all better talent. You saw last year for Wisconsin, they couldn't get to the quarterback. And yeah, I know it's going to be hard with Quan Finn and his legs, but they'll make them throw the ball on a run. Their secondary is absolutely stacked. Wisconsin's going to be a power on defense this year. I mean, at least until they get to the hard part of their schedule, which is probably halfway through the season. I mean, Wisconsin, I know the last 2 years they struggled against the MAC, but they're going to control this game. The run game should be really solid this year. They basically have 3 starting running backs. It's one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten. So with Miami replacing a bunch of all MAC players in their front seven, they should control the line of scrimmage and have a solid game here. I know 17.5 is a shitload of points for a Wisconsin team that hasn't really proven anything, but yeah, man, this is the year. If they don't have a good first week, I feel like it's going to be a long season, but I think this Wisconsin team's absolutely loaded, and if you want to catch a kind of a new Miami, Ohio team, it's opening week. So
yeah, as you can see, Scoop is really big on this Wisconsin team this year, and I can't say I disagree. I don't have a ton of confidence in Luke Fickell as the head coach there, but in terms of the pieces, this is going to be the best team he's had. Certainly the defense. The Wisconsin defense is loaded, and it's truly a nightmare start for DeQuan Finn and the Miami of Ohio offense, who basically lost everybody. They bring in DeQuan Finn, who, if you don't know, he's king of the MAC a couple years back at Toledo, transferred to Baylor. It didn't work out. Now he's back in the MAC with a different program. So I would imagine DeQuan Finn, just by default, is going to be one of, if not the best quarterback in the MAC. Doesn't have a ton of surrounding talent around him on the offensive side. The entire offensive line is gone. 3 of the top 4 wide receivers are gone. And I'm looking at who's projected to start. It's not exactly a ton of experience. So we're talking about DeQuan Finn surrounded by a very new, very inexperienced Miami of Ohio offense against a Wisconsin defense that's really loaded with talent. Not only did they bring a ton of production back, but they also brought in a couple key pieces in the portal. This should be really tough for DeQuan Finn making his first start as a Red Hawk. I think Miami of Ohio is really going to struggle to move the ball here on the road in Wisconsin. On the other side, I mean, this is where I kind of disagree with Scoop. I think Miami of Ohio is going to have a really good defense. Pretty much the whole secondary's back, and this is always one of, if not the strongest defense in the MAC every single year. I don't know. I think they're going to have a strong defense, and I'm not necessarily sold on Billy Edwards Jr., although I agree at 17.5, the way Miami of Ohio should struggle to move the football, Wisconsin may be able to stumble into a cover just from maybe turnovers or sacks or good field position. So I'd lean Wisconsin and under. Looks like Circa has this up at a 41. You can get a 41.5. I'll go under 41.5 for this one. I didn't bet this game. It'll be under 41.5 for me. What'll probably keep me off, there's some injuries to Wisconsin's offense, by the way. Let's see if I wrote down who they are. 1 second. Oh, so the center, Renfro, it's unsure if he'll be ready to start. Tucker Ashcraft, the tight end, has no timetable for his return as well. I'm sorry, I should have said this earlier. So a couple injuries on the Wisconsin offense. You know what? I might bet that under 41.5. As I'm recording this, I don't have a bet, but I might end up betting under 41.5 in this one. Last game I'm going to talk about, Stony Brook, San Diego State, and I believe this is the first time I've ever discussed Stony Brook football on this channel, and I'm going to be completely open about this. I don't know much about them. I did some light reading on Stony Brook, but I do have a bet on this game. San Diego State got it at minus 15.5. It's at 18.5 now. I'd bet at anything 20 or less. I like this San Diego State team this year, and I don't know how Stony Brook is able to make stops against this offense. Looks like Denagle's going to play quarterback. He's got a big arm. They've got big downfield targets here. Miles Kent Denton, Bostic, Jordan Napier. So you've got Denagle, and you've got 3 receivers that can make plays downfield. Keep in mind, it was just a couple years ago where we were really pumped about Sean Lewis as an offensive coach and an offensive mind. We kind of forgot that because he took the OC job under Coach Prime in Colorado, and I don't want to say got blamed as the scapegoat, but it was kind of like he got relieved of his play calling duties, and it was like in 2023, and it was like, wait, what? The offense looks fine. How is it his fault? The offense looks fine. Whatever. We don't have to get into that. But so Sean Lewis goes through that, and then he takes the San Diego State job last year, and they underperformed a little bit, but this is year 2 for Sean Lewis at San Diego State, and he's got the weapons on the offensive side of the ball. They also bring back basically their entire defense. Now, people would argue that it's impossible to have a good defense in a Sean Lewis coach team because of the way he coaches the offense, and the defense often doesn't get a lot of rest. But against Stony Brook, who, by the way, lost their quarterback from last year, I think that they're going to get up and down the field easily. I think this number should be north of 3 touchdowns. So I'm on San Diego State plus 15.5 is the actual bet I have. But I'd be playing down to play at anything 20 or under. So I'm on San Diego State here. Thanks for watching. Remember, live streams midnight Eastern time during the week. Then we got the big Saturday morning show. That's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be live for 2 straight hours leading up to kickoff on Saturdays. If you want to get on the text message list, just go to KyleKirms.com. If you sign up, you get in the Discord, the spreadsheets, the text list, it's all one thing. So if you're interested in that, head over to the website. Let's have a good one. Talk to you guys later.